In the grim darkness of the far future there is only war, and amidst the endless conflict a beacon of light shines forth from the Adepta Sororitas, the Sisters of Battle. Welcome to Beneath the Shadow of Adepta Sororitas, a Warhammer 40K saga. Our tale unfolds in the hive city of Valoria, standing on the brink of annihilation. A sinister cult dedicated to Khorne threatens to tear the city apart, spreading chaos and destruction. But hope is not lost. Sister Superior Helena and her valiant squad of sisters embark on a perilous mission to quell the uprising and confront the darkness beneath the city's streets. Join us as we dive deep into the underhive, through corridors stained with the blood of heroes and heretics alike. Witness the sacrifices made in the Emperor's name, the bonds forged in the fires of battle, and the unyielding faith that lights the way through the darkness. This is not just a story of war. It's a saga of heroism, resilience, and the eternal struggle against the forces that seek to engulf the galaxy in chaos. Are you ready to stand with the Sisters of Battle? To face the horrors that lurk in the shadows and fight for the future of Valoria? Subscribe now, ring the bell for notifications, and join us on this epic journey. For in the heart of darkness the light of faith burns brightest. Your vigil begins here, with Beneath the Shadow of Adepta Sororitas. Prepare for battle. Chapter 1. The Siege begins. The hive city of Valoria was a monument to the Imperium's might, its towering spires clawing at the heavens themselves. Yet beneath this facade of glory, the city's underbelly writhed in turmoil. Rebellion had taken root in the shadowed crevices of the underhive, a festering wound of dissent and heresy threatening to burst. In the dim light of a converted cathedral, now serving as the forward base for the Adepta Sororitas, Sister Superior Helena stood before a stained glass window. It depicted the Emperor in divine radiance, a stark contrast to the darkness consuming Valoria. Reflected in the glass was Helena's visage, marked by the scars of countless battles, her eyes a mirror to the resolve that steel her spirit. Memories of past skirmishes flickered through her mind, each a reminder of the sacrifices made in the Emperor's name. Canoness Viridiana, her presence commanding silence, addressed the gathered sisters. Her voice was a beacon cutting through the uncertainty that hung in the air. "The rebellion in Valoria is not merely a political upheaval," she declared, her tone brooking no argument. "It is tainted by the stain of heresy. We go not only to restore order, but to purge this blight in the Emperor's name." Among the assembled warriors, distinct figures stood at attention. Sister Amara, her hand steady on her heavy bolter, her gaze unwavering. Sister Lucia, whose armor bore the etchings of countless victories and losses, her stance resolute. And novice acolyte Miria, the fire of youthful determination in her eyes, a stark contrast to the seasoned warriors around her. The descent into the hive was a plunge into chaos. Their gunship, emblazoned with the sacred icons of the Adepta Sororitas, carved through the smog-laden sky. Below, the labyrinthine sprawl of the underhive awaited, a mire of corruption and defiance. As they disembarked, the city's desolation greeted them, a welcome extended in gunfire and shouts of rebellion. The skirmish was a tempest of violence. Helena led the charge, her power sword alight with holy fury, each swing a prayer made manifest. Around her, her sisters fought with a grace and ferocity born of unwavering faith, their actions a chorus of devotion. The rebels, fueled by desperation and tainted zeal, fell before them, a testament to the might of the Emperor's will. In the aftermath, amidst the wreckage of battle, they uncovered it, a shrine to the dark gods, a festering sore of corruption. Symbols of chaos adorned its makeshift altar, and the air was thick with the stench of sacrilege. The discovery was a cold knife in the heart of their faith, a tangible sign of the heresy that infested Valoria. Helena's resolve hardened at the sight. Before the defiled shrine, she vowed to bring the Emperor's light to these shadowed depths, to purge the heresy with fire and faith. Reporting back to Canoness Viridiana, her message was clear. The rot of chaos ran deep, and they stood on the precipice of darkness itself. Helena's silhouette stood against the inferno that had once been part of the hive city. The path ahead was fraught with peril, a journey into the heart of darkness. Yet her faith was a beacon, unwavering in the face of the abyss. Her sisters, a phalanx of devotion and might, stood ready to follow her into the storm, their spirits unbroken, their resolve unshakable. Chapter 2. Shadows of Heresy. As Sister Superior Helena and her team delved deeper into the underhive's darkness, the air grew thick, not just with pollution, but with a palpable sense of rage and bloodlust. The further they ventured, the more the environment seemed soaked in a miasma of anger, a testament to the cultists' devotion to Khorne, the blood god. Inquisitor Kale's briefing took on a graver tone as he unveiled the true nature of the heresy infesting Valoria. "The cultists you face are not mere dissenters," he intoned. "They are worshippers of Khorne, seekers of blood and skulls for their god's throne. Their rituals are not only a spiritual corruption but a direct challenge to the Emperor's peace, aiming to drown this hive in endless conflict." Helena absorbed the weight of his words, understanding that their mission was not just to uncover heresy, but to confront an enemy that relished in the carnage of close-quarters combat. As the sisters moved through the underhive, the signs of Khorne's influence became unmistakably evident. Symbols of the blood god were scrawled in blood across the walls, and they encountered makeshift altars piled with skulls, the air around them thick with the iron scent of blood. Their path led them to the heart of the cult's lair, a sanctum where the walls themselves seemed to pulse with a thirst for violence. The cultists they found were not mere rebels, but warriors of Khorne, their bodies marked with runes of battle and eyes alight with the promise of bloodshed. The ambush was a cacophony of screams and the clash of metal, the cultists charged with a zeal that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring, their cries of "blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne," echoing through the dank corridors of the underhive. The sisters fought with disciplined fury, their faith in the Emperor a stark contrast to the cultists' bloodlust. Sister Amara's heavy bolter roared, tearing through the ranks of the cultists, while Sister Lucia and Novice Miria engaged in brutal close combat. Each blow they struck was a testament to their defiance of the blood god's will. In the aftermath of the battle, amidst the carnage wrought by both sides, Helena and her squad uncovered the true horror of the cultists' plan. Detailed among the scattered parchments and ritualistic paraphernalia was a grand scheme to open a rift to the warp, not merely to unleash chaos upon Valoria, but to offer the hive city as a tribute of blood to Khorne. The realization struck a chilling blow to Helena. The cultists sought not just rebellion but a holy war, a never-ending torrent of conflict to satiate their god's thirst for blood and skulls. Returning to the surface, the squad was silent, each sister lost in thought over the day's revelations. Helena reported their findings to Canoness Viridiana and Inquisitor Kale, her report a somber testament to the threat looming over Valoria. The war they were to wage was not just for the city's soul, but against an enemy that sought to turn their every victory into a tribute to Khorne. As Helena knelt in prayer that night, her thoughts were not of fear, but of resolve. The battles to come would be fierce, and blood would flow. Yet her faith in the Emperor was unshaken. She prayed not for victory, but for the strength to resist the seduction of wrath, to fight in his name without succumbing to the bloodlust that fueled their foes. In the silence of the chapel, a single vow was whispered: no blood for Khorne. It was a promise, a challenge and a beacon of hope in the darkness that threatened to engulf Valoria. Chapter 3. Allies and Enemies. In the dim pre-dawn light, the hive city of Valoria lay shrouded in mist, its towering spires and sprawling underbelly hiding the turmoil within. Sister Superior Helena moved through the shadowed streets with purpose, her mind a whirlwind of strategy and prayer. Today, she would navigate not the physical battlefields, but the equally treacherous terrain of alliances. The meeting place was an abandoned manufactorum, its once thunderous machinery now silent, a ghostly testament to the hive's better days. Here, beneath the vast, skeletal remains of industrial might, Helena met with Commander Gaius and Marshal Karin. The manufactorum, lit by the flickering light of portable lumens, cast long shadows, mirroring the uncertainty of the alliance being formed. Commander Gaius, his face weathered by years of conflict, regarded Helena with a mix of respect and skepticism. Beside him, Marshal Karin stood like a statue of imperial justice, her gaze piercing and unwavering. The air was thick with tension, the weight of their collective responsibility pressing down upon them. Words were exchanged, each sentence measured and fraught with the gravity of their situation. Helena, standing firm in her faith, navigated the conversation with a precision born of years leading her sisters into battle. She spoke not only of tactics and strategy, but of belief in the Emperor's guiding light, invoking a sense of unity against the darkness threatening to consume Valoria. With a fragile alliance forged, Helena led her squad and their newfound allies back into the underhive's depths. The environment was oppressive, a maze of decrepit structures and narrow passageways, every shadow a potential threat. The air was thick with the stench of decay, the walls stained with the marks of untold stories of despair. Their journey was a descent into the heart of darkness, the oppressive atmosphere a constant test of their resolve. Skirmishes with Khorne cultists erupted with brutal suddenness, the air filled with the roar of gunfire and the clash of steel. In these moments, the Imperial Guard fought with a bravery that earned begrudging respect, while the Arbite's cold efficiency was a grim reminder of their dedication to order, no matter the cost. It was during one such clash that the unthinkable happened. An explosion, not from the cultists, but from within their ranks, tore through their formation. Chaos ensued, not the chaos of the warp, but the chaos of treachery. Chapter 4, The Bloodied Path, Part 1. The dawn in Valoria was not a new beginning but an omen, the sky bleeding red above the hive city, mirroring the violence soon to unfold in its underbelly. The air was electric with anticipation, as Sister Superior Helena and her makeshift army of Adepta Sororitas, Adeptus Arbits, and Imperial Guardsmen prepared to descend into the heart of darkness. On the eve of the assault, the Allied camp was a hive of activity. Armor was sanctified, weapons were blessed, and prayers were offered to the Emperor. Helena moved among her sisters and their allies, her presence a calming force in the pre-battle tumult. She met the gaze of each soldier, Arbite and sister, seeing their determination, their fears, and their unspoken farewells to comrades they might not see again. Commander Gaius briefed his troops one final time, his voice firm despite the pallor of his scarred face. Beside him, Marshal Karin reviewed maps of the underhive, her eyes tracing the labyrinthine paths that led to the cultists' stronghold. The plan was simple yet fraught with peril: breach the stronghold, decimate the cultists, and eliminate their leader, a champion of Khorne whose bloodlust had damned the city. As they entered the underhive, the oppressive darkness seemed to swallow them whole, the narrow, twisting tunnels echoing with the sounds of their advance. The light from their torches cast long shadows, transforming familiar corridors into a maze of uncertainty. The stench of decay was pervasive, a constant reminder of the corruption that festered below Valoria. The first sign of the enemy was not seen but felt, a palpable wave of hatred and rage that washed over them, emanating from the depths. It was met with a chorus of prayers and battle cries, the soldiers steeling themselves against the onslaught to come. The cultists attacked with frenetic zeal, their screams of blood for the blood god chilling in their fervour. They emerged from the shadows like phantoms, their weapons crude but deadly, coated in the blood of previous sacrifices. The tunnels became a nightmarish landscape of flesh, metal, and blood, the confined space amplifying the cacophony of battle. Helena was in the vanguard, her power sword a beacon of holy wrath. Each swing cleaved through sinew and bone, her armour spattered with the blood of the fallen. Around her, the Adepta Sororitas fought with a grace born of righteous fury, their bolters singing songs of death. The Arbites and Guardsmen brought their own brand of retribution. Commander Gaius led a charge that broke through the cultists' lines, his power fist crushing skulls and armour alike. Marshal Karin, her visage a mask of stoic determination, directed her forces with precision, her power maul leaving a trail of devastation. But victory did not come without cost. The cultists, though outmatched, fought with the desperation of the damned, their blades finding gaps in armour, their bombs turning soldiers into martyrs. Sister Amara, wielding her heavy bolter with lethal efficiency, found her end in a blaze of glory, taking a host of cultists with her as she detonated an ammunition cache. The tunnels ran red with the blood of friend and foe, the air thick with the smell of death. For every cultist that fell, another seemed to take their place, their madness undimmed by loss. As they neared the heart of the stronghold, the resistance grew fiercer. The cultists, emboldened by their proximity to their dark altar, launched themselves at Helena and her forces with reckless abandon. It was in these moments that the true cost of the battle became apparent. The ground littered with the fallen, the air rent with the cries of the wounded. Yet amidst the chaos, there was courage. A guardsman, young and wide-eyed, stood over a fallen comrade, his laser-gun blazing until he too was overtaken. An Arbit, her armor dented and scorched, fought back-to-back with a Sister of Battle, their mutual respect forged in the heat of combat. And at the forefront, Helena pressed on, her faith unwavering, her resolve steel. The stronghold loomed before them, a fortress of sin and blood, its gates guarded by the most fanatical of the cultists. But Helena knew no fear, only the certainty that the Emperor's will must be done. The battle for Valoria's soul was at its zenith, a crescendo of violence and valor that would determine the fate of the city and all who called it home. Chapter 4. The Bloodied Path, Part 2. The gates of the stronghold, adorned with symbols of Khorne that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, became the focal point of the battle. Helena, signaling her sisters and allies, initiated the final assault. Explosives, blessed by the chaplains and tech priests, tore through the cursed gates, creating a breach through which the light of the Emperor could pierce the darkness. As they charged through the smouldering breach, the interior of the stronghold revealed itself to be a cathedral of horror. Walls were draped with the flayed skins of the cultists' victims, and the air was thick with the coppery scent of blood. At the far end, an altar to Khorne, constructed from the bones of the fallen, dominated the chamber. And there, before it, stood the Chaos Champion of Khorne, his armor a tapestry of war and sacrifice, awaiting the final confrontation. The Champion of Khorne roared a challenge that was both an invitation and a curse. Helena stepped forward, her power sword ignited with a holy fire, its light cutting through the gloom. The duel that ensued was a clash of ideologies as much as blades, with each strike and parry a testament to their opposing faiths. Helena fought with the precision honed over countless battles, her movements a dance of death. The champion, fueled by the bloodlust of Khorne, met her with a ferocity that was inhuman, his axe seeking to claim her head for his god. The battle was a storm of steel and sparks, the outcome hanging in the balance with every heartbeat. Around them the battle raged on, but in this moment the world narrowed to the space between two warriors, one a servant of the Emperor, the other a disciple of destruction. As the duel reached its climax, Helena saw her opening. With a prayer to the Emperor on her lips, she feinted, drawing the champion's strike before counterattacking with all her might. Her blade found its mark, piercing the champion's armor and heart. As he fell, the stronghold began to tremble, the dark magics that held it together unraveling with their master's death. The retreat was immediate and chaotic, Helena and her allies navigating the collapsing tunnels in a desperate race against time. Behind them, the stronghold imploded, a final defiant scream echoing from its depths as it was consumed by its own corruption. They emerged into the light of Valoria, battered and bloodied but alive. The cost of their victory was etched on the faces of the survivors, a silent testament to the sacrifices made. Many had fallen, their names to be remembered and honored. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the wounded were tended to, Helena stood amidst the ruins of the battlefield. The sun, breaking through the clouds, bathed the hive city in a gentle light, a stark contrast to the darkness they had faced below. The victory was theirs, but the war against chaos was never truly over. Helena knew this, as did every sister, guardsman and arbite who had stood with her. They had faced the abyss and returned, their faith and resolve stronger for it. Commander Gaius, gravely injured but unbroken, offered Helena a nod of respect. Marshal Karen, her uniform torn and stained, pledged her continued support in the fight against heresy. And around them the survivors lifted their voices in a hymn of thanks to the Emperor, their song a balm to their weary souls. As the hymn faded, Helena looked to the horizon, where the battle for the soul of the Imperium would continue. She knew not what the future held, but she was certain of one thing. Wherever darkness threatened, the Adepta Sororitas would be there, swords raised, faith unyielding. Chapter 5. Dusk of Resilience. The battle for Valoria's underhive had concluded, but its aftermath left a scar upon the hive city that would not soon fade. The stronghold's destruction marked a rare victory in a galaxy where darkness perpetually encroaches upon the flickering lights of humanity. Yet in the grim darkness of the far future, Such victories are but brief respite in the eternal war against chaos. Sister Superior Helena walked through the remnants of the battlefield, her steps a silent testament to the cost of their Pyrrhic victory. The underhive, a labyrinth of despair and defiance, was now a tomb for the countless souls lost to Khorne's bloodlust. The air hung heavy with the stench of decay, a grim reminder of the horrors unleashed in the depths below. The survivors, though relieved, carried the weight of loss in their eyes, each glance a story of sacrifice and sorrow. The city had been saved, yet the victory felt hollow, overshadowed by the realization that the war against the dark gods was unending, each battle a mere delay of the inevitable. In the shadow of Valoria's spires, a monument rose, not as a celebration, but as a somber remembrance of the fallen. Crafted from the wreckage of the underhive, it stood as a stark reminder of the battle's toll. The names of the fallen were inscribed upon its surface, a roll call of the damned and the heroic, intertwined in death. Helena addressed the gathering of mourners, her voice echoing amidst the ruins. She spoke of valor in the face of darkness, of sacrifices made in the Emperor's name, and the relentless enemy that awaited beyond the stars. Her words were not of triumph, but of grim acknowledgement of the war's unending nature, and the certainty that they would fight again. As Valoria slowly began to rebuild, the scars of the conflict served as a constant reminder of the Imperium's fragility. The Sisters of Battle, the Imperial Guard, and the Adeptus Arbiters fortified their ranks, their resolve hardened by the ordeal, yet aware of the darkness that lingered at the edge of the light. For Helena, the victory brought no peace, only the burden of leadership and the knowledge that the forces of chaos were ever present, waiting for the moment of weakness to strike anew. The memories of the fallen haunted her, a spectral army urging her to remain vigilant.